Hi, I'm Penni Z from the Amy Van Andel Library. It's Tuesday night at 6:30, so it's time for What We're Reading. Look at the beautiful women I got to come on my show this week. It is amazing. I've got Christine Mwangi and Carrie Wilson. Both of them are on Kent District Library's leadership team. Christine is our fund director. Did I get that right, Christine?
Director of Fund Development.
Director of Fund Development. Thank you. And Christine knows all the great new programs that we've got going on that sometimes I don't know what's going on in our 20 branches. Christine, tell me about your favorite new program we've got happening right now.
Thank you, Penny. Thank you for having me. I would have to say that my favorite program that we have going on is one that I helped write a grant for, which is called Men of Color Who Read. It was founded by a gentleman by the name of John Covington in Los Angeles about a decade ago, over 10 years ago. But it has found its way to our region. About 5 years ago, that program was launched in Muskegon Library, and very recently is here in Grand Rapids. And what they do is that they are a conglomerate of men of color who go into urban schools and read to children. And the main goal for that program, not only is it to address the issue of literacy and improving the reading skills of youth, but also kind of challenging the stereotypes sometimes that may accompany Black men in our community, and breaking those down and putting them in front of children and educators in a way that is positive, enriching. And I just love even the name Men of Color Read, because when you think men of color, perhaps reading is not the first thing that comes to mind, but there are a lot of brilliant minds in our community. And so they are able to, I guess, advocate for that and challenge some of those stereotypes. I think it's a great program.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Do they pick out whatever books they want to read, or is there a certain number?
And I think books? So I think depending on the level that they're reading, onto the age group that they're reading, sometimes if it's picture books, they could go through quite a few in one session versus if it's teenagers or elementary school. So I guess it depends on their youth audience and what the topic is. Maybe they do themes. I'm not quite sure. It would make sense that maybe they do themes, like this is Black History Month, so maybe that's a theme. I'm not quite sure, but I would love to actually just be in attendance when one of them is happening, just to be able to get a closer look at what that looks like in real time. But now with the social distancing restrictions, it's not as easy to go and sit in a class like you could in the past, and even volunteer yourself to go read to kids. What do those things look like anymore? So, yeah.
So if someone in our audience would like this to happen in their school or their child's school, how can they make that happen?
To be honest, I think the best person to contact may be our colleague Sarah Prano, or perhaps Randy Goebel. And I guess they could just call KDL's number, 616. What is our number? 724-2017. That's it.
And comments on this live video.
Absolutely.
I'd like it on my school. Please contact me and give me your contact information, and we can get in touch with you.
Yes.
Great program.
Yeah.
So we also have Carrie Wilson. Carrie, what is your title exactly?
Yeah, I'm Director of Library Operations.
That sounds very fancy. What does the Director of Library Operations do exactly?
Yeah, I actually have the privilege and opportunity to work with and serve our regional managers who are working with our frontline staff, who are really doing the magic and serving our communities on our front lines. And I also work with some of our internal operations to ensure that the magic behind the scenes is running smoothly. So where we're bringing in our new items and our delivery system and getting these books back out for holds into the system for the frontline staff to handle. So,
yay! I'm the frontline staff. I feel like I get to put the Cinderella outfit on and bring my magic wand to work every day. And Carrie's the one who makes sure the magic wand keeps working. And Christine gets me enough money to update my pretty yellow dress. So thank you both. Okay, but this is my show. So let me start with Christine. Christine, what are you reading?
I am reading Untamed. I'm gonna try and show a photo of it because I'm reading it virtually, like on my Kindle app. So those of you that love reading virtually, let me see.
Yeah, we can see it. Untamed by Glennon Doyle.
Yes.
Libby app.
Yes, I'm using the Libby app to read, and it's quite convenient. I can take it wherever. It's really good, and yeah. And because I think the hard copy has too many people on the waiting list.
So Untamed. Why is Glennon Untamed?
Wow. And Untamed right now is speaking to me in many ways. There are certain themes about how we seek validation and how we, just by doing life and going about our routine and internalizing things and I guess, messages in our environment, we find ourselves sometimes boxed in. You could be boxed in your identity, let's say, as a mom, and everything you're doing is literally surrounds that identity or whatever that looks like. But for me, it spoke a lot about seeking outward validation and how we should always look in and not out when we want to feel validated. And remember, like, the things that make you who you are and that charge you to be authentic in the ways that you are and your gifts, and look to those for validation. Oftentimes, especially with social media, it's so easy to just find yourself in a rabbit hole on your feed and looking at other people's lives in the snippets they choose to show you and feeling so invalidated, right? And feeling so down and feeling so, unworthy maybe, or, right now it feels like all we have is time because of the social distancing and the somewhat quarantine situation that we've been in. And so I'm learning a lot about how to hear noise in the background that invalidates me and quieting that and looking inward to be able to kind of pull my strengths out at times when I don't feel so strong or don't feel so confident or like myself, or like I am losing myself because I'm an extrovert and I can't see people.
Yes, I hear you. I have to read this book.
It is so good. And I feel like it's the type of book you should probably reread every few years, because you don't know what rut you found yourself in that you don't even know you're in until you start to read it in that new season of your life. So I feel like it's one of those books. It almost reminds me like of the Bible. Some of these Bible verses, sometimes they're different. Like, is that the same way they told that story when I was a kid? Like, I feel like it means something different now.
Because you
Right?
need something else from it, I think. So you take something else from it when you get there.
Yeah.
I count how many views I get on this little What We're Reading show. So I like that's something I need to work on. They're changing that kind of I hear that. So I need to read this book.
And journal. Be prepared to journal as you read it, because there are so many good nuggets. It's one of those that I feel like I'll probably get timed out on Libby because I didn't read it all on time, because I read it and then it provokes such deep like reflection. So I have to stop and I have to be like, whoa, let me write that down. Let me take some notes. How is this making me feel? When do I see my therapist again? And then I go. It's so good. I might just have to buy the hard copy so I can take notes and use stickies. It's one of those books to me.
Yeah, I think that's a reason that libraries support actual publishers and writers, because you have all of these books to choose from, and then you find one that you must own and you buy it. And supporting that author and supporting that publisher. So
and supporting your local bookshop.
Yes. Hello, Schulers. We see you.
Hi.
So, Carrie,
Yeah.
what are you reading?
Before we get there, I just want to say, Penny, maybe for another show, you need to do why we read.
Oh, you're so deep.
I know, right?
But Christine, in describing your experience, like how much value does it add to our life when we open a book and we realize someone is experiencing so much of what we're feeling and can't put words?
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Research and therapy do they save us by capturing this in these next, like
Yeah.
Yes.
And it reduces that shame of feeling like, oh my gosh, why can't I handle this? Why am I struggling with this? And then to hear that it's somebody else's story is amazing. It's
I'm not
yeah.
alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm sorry, back to what I'm reading and then why I'm reading it. But this is After Long Silence by Helen Fremont.
Okay.
This was written in 1999 or published in 99. It was a bestseller. It was her first book. She'd had essays and works of fiction. This is actually nonfiction, but it's written very much like creative nonfiction. It reads like a novel. So, Helen Fremont actually, she sets the stage by living with her family, young age, maybe 5 or 6. She learns that both of her parents were survivors of concentration camps. They were from Nazi occupied Poland during the 30s and 40s. So, but, she was raised Catholic. So she starts by talking about some of the inconsistencies growing up and this sort of like undertone silence and secrets and asking her parents things when it didn't make sense. Like, why are we Catholic, but I didn't go through confirmation and we leave church when communion comes? Or what does it mean to be Catholic then? Yeah, right? So, and then other things, she's like, my sister developed a eating disorder, or her parents would have these disproportionate responses if her sister and her were maybe 6 or 8 and fighting like siblings do. And she said her dad would all of a sudden like, I spent 6 years in the gulag for this, and like storm out. Her mom dropped her knees and say, I should have died with my parents. And, like,
my goodness.
that does the kids, right?
Wow.
She's in her 30s. She's an attorney, and she's having this panic attacks like daily. And she says she like walks away from it all and goes and works on a farm and trying to find herself. And when she comes back into society in Boston, she meets the wife of a colleague of one of the attorneys. And the wife is, this woman is telling her about just discovering very recently that her mother was actually Jewish and a survivor of the Holocaust, and she had no idea. This woman had children, and she just found out. And so, they start exchanging stories and pieces that aren't adding up, and the woman says, your parents are Jewish. And she says, no, they're not. They're Polish Catholic. And she's like, nope, they're Jewish. And, so this, Helen and her sister start like whispering secrets. Her sister's in California, and she's saying, I think we're Jewish. And she's like, no, we're Catholic. And so anyway, they connect. They go to Israel. They go to Poland. They connect with a rabbi. They find out that their grandparents were actually Orthodox Jews in Poland. Yeah. So when the Soviet Union comes in, takes over Poland, they rush, Helen's father at the time was in his 20s. He had just gotten a medical degree, and he went to the Soviet Union camps, the Gulag, as a political prisoner. And then, she weaves in history this entire time in these themes of like secrets and trauma and the impact of something like this decades later. And what those secrets do, the hole that leaves in the children of these survivors. But a layer beyond that, having no idea that there's this undertone of just unbearable memories that her parents have just tucked away. They changed their names. They don't talk about the memories. And when they ask them questions, they'll give them just flighty answers. And it's really interesting because her family, all through this book, even in the afterword, I don't think I'm supposed to tell the end, but her family never approves of her writing this. And so there's very much a philosophical tone of, I have a right to my identity and my history. It's absolutely incredible. Right down to, like the Holocaust itself, reading a book about the Holocaust is just gut-wrenching, and the impact that lies and propaganda have on leading the public. It goes straight into detail, right, to where her mother changed identities because her sister married an Italian count, and they faked being Italian and basically crossed borders and got out. And that's an oversimplification of what this family went through. But yeah, it was absolutely incredible.
Wow.
It
makes me think of like how our brain sometimes will protect us from trauma by just almost erasing certain parts of our memory.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, and I'm just thinking with empathy about her parents and how while she's entitled to her identity and her past and things like that, it would cost great trauma to her parents to take her back there. But what's the compromise? Because it's almost like how I have envisioned or heard stories of people who are adopted, and how until they connect with their birth families, there's a missing thing. There's something missing, and there's something that sometimes they want to find so that a part of them can feel, complete, right? But sometimes to find it is to uncover some painful things. And so...
But they're doing so much now with trauma therapy and taking care of that, because you can cover it up and act, but obviously this was still bothering them. I mean, she's still going into a shell and saying, I should have died with my parents. I mean, this is still very painful. And if you add this a layer, maybe pulling it out can help them get help for this trauma. And you can tell when you see, if you know about trauma, when you see these victims talking about what happened to them, you can see in their eyes and their physical being that they're not just remembering it, they're reliving it.
They're reliving it. And it has physical implications,
Right.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to watch this story. This Helen Fremont is an incredible author, because she just takes this deeply layered story, and she's showing from the perspective of these two parents. One trekked across the entire Soviet Union through the tundra on trains in 4 days to escape the gulag with a broken arm and like frostbitten toes. And he back to his fiance after 6 years, and this couple, unifies in silence, including the sister who, it's funny you talked about forgotten memories, because it's so these parents escaped this horrible reality to start a new dream in America so that they can provide for their children, right? And here's Helen as an attorney in her 30s, and they're saying, you are privileged, you have everything. Why would you pull all this back out? They think she's deranged. They want her institutionalized in this book, because they're like, why do you want to relive something so horrible? In fact, her mother didn't even know how her parents died. So Helen actually finds out in the book, like through written testimonies, which camp they were in. And it's like, that's how much they had blocked off. And even her could not remember her mother's birth name. Because they had changed identities so many times. So for her, it was like, they can't understand why I grew up with this privileged life in Michigan, actually. And here I am in my 30s, throwing away my law degree to go work in the Peace Corps. And my parents are like, what's wrong with you? We sacrificed literally everything. So yeah, the story is like this gut-wrenching. It's just this delve into our need for identity and the refusal to let that go. And another generation saying, you don't have a right to that.
Right. And I guess sometimes I wonder, like, how much permission do we give things to die with certain generations? Like, not everything has to be passed down, I don't think. Like, there are some things I even talk to my own mom, and I'm like, I wish your generation did this differently so I didn't have to live this part. And she's like, well, no, you can live the next chapter differently and raise your children differently. Like, I think we've come to an understanding of, some things just aren't like, and we can't change history, and, some things just end with a generation. So it's like, who decides what gets passed on and at what cost?
Absolutely.
Right.
Some things are better to have end.
Yeah.
I feel like you can improve on who your family is in your children.
Right. Or do a new thing.
Right.
You know, what's so different about doing it? And I think today's world, that is being challenged a lot because people are marrying out of their culture now, out of their race, out of their religion.
Yeah.
You know, I went to a wedding a few years ago where they were different races, different religions. The only thing that bound them was that they both spoke French. One was like, I think he was Jewish and the girl was Muslim, and she was black and he was white. And I was like, how is this going to work? But again, I think now people are more they're more agile to like allow those difference and do a new thing. I think we are more open-minded now to do a totally new thing. It didn't exist in his family, didn't exist in her family, and they start a new culture, a new lane in, you know, in their families. And I think that's beautiful.
How
Yeah.
I was brought up is not everything. It's not
I'm
the
sorry?
whole. The thinking that how you were brought up is not everything.
Right, right,
It's not even maybe even the best way.
right. But it's okay to bring some things along.
Yes. Yes.
Wow, how insightful. I feel like we could just sit here and get deep. That's a really good book.
Okay, I'm scaring people now, so I'm going to have both of you hold up your books one more time.
Oh my gosh, mine is virtual again. Sorry.
And Penny, in light of the way that we are introducing our new core collection with our perennial favorites, I thought you'd be so proud that I picked a book from 1999, a bestseller.
Very nice. Love it. Look at those two books. So check them both out. And I'm going to just say really quick, okay, you guys can put them down now.
I just love it so much.
The one I was going to talk about
In 5 years.
5 years by Rebecca Searle. I'm going to stop reading now because I am not enjoying it.
Oh,
No offense to anyone who loved this book. And Carrie and I were having this discussion. What happens if you start to read a book and you're just
The
It's
world
not-
is big. Go
it's
read
not
another.
the right time? I'm in a library surrounded by wonderful books, so I can't wait.
right, right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can go online and read the review and see if you were missing a perspective.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, read some reviews and say, oh, I didn't get that out of it. That's interesting. And then you can have closure to move on.
That's a great idea. I will read some reviews. And if anyone out there has read it and liked it, please tell me why.
Well, I can want to inspired me in discussing a book that truly you can read over and over, and it really highlights these very real human experiences that many of us are experiencing right alongside each other, right? And we don't know. So I want to introduce my friend and author. I pretend she's my friend. She doesn't know it yet. I call her Liz. Her name is Elizabeth Gilbert.
Okay.
Oh, gosh. Okay, sorry.
Big Magic by Elizabeth.
Magic. So creative living beyond fear. She goes into what I love about this book is she really highlights that humans are creative beings, that we are born with a creative bone, that we have a need to create, to improve, to build, and that part of the problem with humans is that we like to attach very human emotions like shame to our own creativity. So anything from why did I paint this? That's horrible, to why am I not writing? Or my writing's horrible and I have to. She says that Ernest Hemingway and S. Scott Fitzgerald had it all wrong as creative beings who felt like they chose a tortured occupation for life, right? She said to be a writer, to be a good writer, you don't have to have pain all the time and hate your writing. This is like you are made to create without any kind of feel for what comes out of that. And it's not just about authors. She's talking about like go dance in the rain. Who cares, right? And she ties it through like it goes from these kind of high level spiritual things where she talks about her and Ann Patchett trading ideas through the ether and the universe, and how they sort of had these same ideas on opposite ends of the universe, and found out later that an idea she had for a book Ann Patchett actually wrote and published, which is, I read it. Name an Ann Patchett book, a recent one.
The Dutch House?
Nope, before that. I read it. I don't know. It'll come back to me. Anyway, she talks about how ideas, like, you don't have to have guilt when you get an idea and don't act on it. Though when you get what's that?
State of wonder?
No.
Okay.
I know.
I think this is going to be a game now.
I know. Anyway, so what I love about Liz Gilbert is she kind of weaves in from the ethereal, like the very spiritual side, but also pragmatic. Like, I'm sorry, I keep slipping to the author side because I like to write, but she really talks about all forms of creativity. But she says if you want to be a writer, you don't put the pressure of I have to make a living on my writing. Now you are stifling your creativity. You're attaching this guilt to something that should bring you alive, right?
Sure.
She says writing, if that's what you want to do, or whatever your art is, you get a job, whatever that job is, go wash floors. She doesn't care. Go write. Go work. And then on the side, you treat your creative activity like a lover. Like you slip away to that creative place every free minute you get. You turn on friend obligations, and you do this out of love for what you do. And then whatever comes out of that is going to be beautiful because you detached all of this pain from that. And if you want to put money on that, then great, go do that. If you don't, then celebrate that you're a human being that has these very creative bones that we need to give permission to come alive.
Yay, I love that.
Wow.
I love Liz Gilbert. I have to tell you, last story, I know I keep talking. She touched my knee.
Oh.
Yeah. I saw her in person. She gave.
Yeah, but G-rated, Carrie. G-rated.
Oh, it is. Yeah. It isn't. She's probably watching. Like, we go way back. But I was at this conference where she did this workshop, and it was all about creative living. So she would do these like 5-minute snippets, talk about high level, like Einstein used to dabble in another field to open up his creative channel in another field. And and I was staring at her at the time, and I must have been doing something like this. And she's like, I'm seeing some faces I can't quite read. And so she says, okay, talk to your partners about this. We break, I turn, and then all of a sudden she's sitting in front of me, touched my knee, and she was like, what was that face you were making? I was like, I don't know. I love you, and I want to talk about this more.
Oh my God.
She's such a beautiful human being who gives herself permission to be as geeky and human as we all are, but somehow takes it to a much higher pragmatic level and helps you get through any inner feelings of hesitation or she declares this love of life and then somehow shows you how she came through the mud to get to not, she's still in the mud. It's all about perspective.
Right. Yeah.
So,
okay, I'm jealous of all your books, and I'm not reading this one anymore.
go read Liz's.
Aw, you can choose again, Penny.
Yes.
Again.
So many to choose from. So everybody tune in next week to find out what I landed on next.
Yes.
So next week on Tuesday at 6:30, I'm going to talk to Chelsea Graham and Hannah about graphic novels.
Yes, they're wonderful.
Yes, that's going to be fabulous. So come back next week and see us. In the meantime, thank you, Christine. Thank you, Carrie. It was phenomenal, and you guys are amazing. See everybody next week.
Bye.